Hello everyone, my name is Jiao Li. Today I'll be talking about how to build an enjoyable and engaging online Chinese classroom. It is without a doubt that having the ability to speak Chinese has become a core skill as a global citizen. These are the two goals of our talk today. And yes, we do have a tradition of taking a group photo in Chinese class, and judging from the look on our face, we're pretty glad that we've made it through the quarter. Today we'll be specifically discussing these 4 topics. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. In order to help students to get mentally ready for 8 o'clock class in the morning, what I like to do is simply watching a video with them 5 minutes before the class, whether it's a popular Chinese song or a food vlog on YouTube, or a video explaining the most confusing grammar in Chinese, the. And of course, sometimes I'll ask them to read a paragraph in Chinese, of course, that explains why the teacher, I have 2 dogs, sitting on my lap during the Zoom session on that day. Those warm-up tips will perk students up, at the same time give them access to the Chinese pop culture. Are we ready for a sneak peek of the class? We'll be using lesson 13 from Chinese 3 in this example. At this point, students should have completed roughly 110 hours of learning. And lesson 13 is about directions. Before we jump into the actual slides that I used in the class, let's take a moment, you can pause the video, to take a look at those 4 learning objectives. On the first day, we focused on vocabulary. Students will take the initiative to read each word, and I will be offering pronunciation tips or phrasal combinations. For example, 过 to pass, 过马路 to cross the road. As you could tell, I try to use authentic materials as often as possible when it comes to Hanzi, aka the Chinese character. Students are encouraged to give Hanzi examples that share the same radical as a way of reviewing of the old Hanzi. For example, all those 4 Hanzi have double person, 双人旁. And it is not always easy for students to see or notice those minor differences among Hanzi. Therefore, I will guide them through. I will compare new Hanzi, those in blue, 次, with their lookalikes, those in red, 欢. Another tip is to always help them to visualize the words. Those directional words, 东, 西, 南, 北, make perfect examples here. Second day of the dialogue is about grammar. Besides asking grammar questions, I find myself seizing every chance to bring Asian culture close to the students, which helps them to develop their cultural awareness. For example, party culture in Chinese is quite unique, so I use that as a grammar question. And grammar day could be fun in many ways. Try to give your demo conversation a personal touch. Of course, students will learn better when they could relate. Also, incorporate some old vocabulary in the conversation. Students will really appreciate you making the effort to keep them on track. And day 2 will end with a group work. Students will work in pairs, tackling a problem using the knowledge they acquired by doing this comprehensive exercise. And following those 3 steps, all their skills, reading, listening, speaking, writing, will be tested. And now we've come to the last day, a day focusing on the dialogue. At this point, students should be fairly comfortable reading the entire dialogue by themselves. And you could cover certain words with fun emojis or icons, like what I do here. And students can also play role play or a popcorn game, a reading game where one student randomly calls out another to read by saying, popcorn, 请你读, aka it is your turn to read. And who doesn't like watching movies, really, especially in class? Next up, students will watch a video clip starring our beloved characters in the textbook, Gao Wenzhong and Wang Peng. After that, they'll be given photos with captions that are out of order, capturing 6 moments from the video. Then they will be asked to describe each photo in Chinese and rearrange the order of the events as they appear in the video. Lastly, students will retell the story in their own words. And now moving on to another problem-solving task. First, I'll introduce this campus map and point out some landmarks that will be useful later. And then I'll read to students these two paragraphs I wrote for this particular task. Of course, they cannot see. Only me can see the paragraph. And the class will be engaged in the discussion of a set of problems, such as where Xiao Huang, little Huang, plans to take his dog to play, and where little Bai, Xiao Bai's location is. And after this heated discussion, it comes to the most exciting part of the day, collaborative tasks. So the first task is to draw a map. In preparation, students read a passage that I composed and go into their breakout rooms to draw a map on shared Google Slides based on the passage. And after they come back to the main room, I will ask the questions relating to their map drawing experience and encourage them to keep practicing with their partner. Lastly, we'll all together use a list of provided phrases and sentence patterns to describe what they draw on the map and how they arrive at the destination. Another task, which is also the last activity of the last day of this dialogue, is a group skit. This really pushes students to another level of devotion. They'll have to put their knowledge into use and create a skit based on the given prompt. They'll be put back to the breakout room. Well, I choose not to scare them in the breakout room. I could still watch the progress of each group on the shared Google Slides and provide real-time feedback with regard to their choice of word, grammar, or typos, etc., as you can see here. And if I don't see any mistakes, I'll just simply put 很好, which is very good in Chinese. This brought us to my next point. Because of the small class size, students are not afraid of reaching out for help and will always get personal, customized feedback from the teacher. If someone out there looking for a fast, friendly voice message tool to streamline your feedback, Mode is a browser extension that I highly recommend. Because listening to a voice message from the teacher is much more pleasant than reading a cold message, right? And oftentimes we hear students talking about how much they appreciate the intimacy and the closeness between the students and the teacher in Chinese class. And because teachers not only remember their name, but also know their pronunciation difficulties and what grammar they find annoyingly confused, and even when their birthday is or what their lucky number is. And because those are questions that we randomly ask around when learning a new language. And remembering those small things will really bring you closer to the students. Another effective method that I employ is writing or drawing on slides using the Apple Pencil on my iPad while students are engaged in speaking exercise. It gives students immediately feedback without stopping the exercise itself. And I have to say, my speedy drawing skills has improved a lot because of that. And this next strategy is to create an immersion experience by implementing a Chinese-only rule, which means everyone is expected to communicate in Chinese for the entire period of class, 50 minutes every day. You'd be surprised by how much students will learn from just hearing you talking and giving instructions on what you want them to do. And you will not achieve this overnight. Normally, some useful expressions are introduced to them on day one of Chinese 1 so that you can learn how to ask questions in Chinese, such as 中文怎么说? How do you say da in Chinese? And 请你再说一遍. Please say it one more time. And now let's come back to our learning objectives of lesson 13. We should be confident to say that students can cross all of them off. the table after a range of class activities that are both diverse and focused. And finally, we arrive at the last point of today's talk. Transforming a Chinese class or any language class to online takes time, and we learn as we do. And I couldn't stop wondering, what do students think of this whole year of remote learning experience? So let's take a look. Overall, they seem to be quite pleased at the learning outcome, judging from this feedback that I've collected from various channels. Keep in mind that applying their constructive feedback is one way of perfecting our teaching, and that's something I will never quit doing. This concludes my presentation today. My name is Jiao Li. It's been such an honor to be able to share with you all what I, as a teacher, have learned over the past year. Feel free to check out our class information on ELC website or follow me on Padlet. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye!